the left side of it. There's two doors there. It's the last door.
It's right next door to the where we used to drop them off. It's just one door over on the left side.
Southern Canada 16 Timber.
We'll be pulling it
And tan cargo pants. It's an ongoing issue, drinking in front of the location right now.
Peter swallowing.
430 Central.
I'll be working off of EMS.
Leopoldo Ramirez still a valid trip? Showing him to be valid, yes.
And that's on location.
We're going to be on Highway 77 southbound.
Left finger pain after a fall 1 week ago. Vital signs are currently stable, 114 over 72, heart rate of 98, starting at 98% on room air, respiration 17. Patient is slightly combative at the time. ETA is about 8 to 10 minutes.
Copy that, northwest clear. Oh, sorry, I dropped off yesterday on the side of the building. She came out and told me to go to the side.
Right now she's saying it's right here, 101. She's right there in the front. She said that this is a door they're coming in through.
Yeah, 4. And you're facing Holly, right?
Peak clear 59, case number 1805-160088.
No, they did call back.
69. John David George.
37 Islander Way at the Momentum Village. 510 Timber. Truck 410-4, engine 4, I'll show you clear.
4, we copy. Go ahead and show us en route to Station 3 for standby.
Engine 410-4, en route to Station 3 for standby.
69 takes off, she's walking towards the boat. Did you want me to make her a same day in the back?
665, count 69. John David George.
Okay, well I know shorted at my end, so I just keep it a sync, thank you.
Photo and Eileen?
Be with the black male wearing white shirt and white shorts, refusing to leave.
40.
Tin, you're back on your call now. Do you see anything?
I got it, thank you, sir.
20?
Sir, is there a unit available that can go to 534 Balboa and try to make contact with the suspect in this hit and run?
Back and see if we can get some type of description.
4534 Balboa.
10-11-76, he's going to be Pennsylvania.
They're probably going to put down,
for false
I don't know, there's
reporting.
about 2 to 3 quarts of radiator fluid on this street.
For a fire assist, 5633 South Staples, 5633 Wellness Foundation, Suite 700. You're requesting an engine reference 2 to 3 quarts of radiator fluid on scrap.
I'm just verifying the information with her. Thank you.
What is that, the little garage thing?
4.
What time is it? Okay, then for MI 1300 for Trey Hicks is still valid. Okay, I'm taking my lunch from 11:41 to 12:41. 10-4, I wrote the mileage down.
2010-4. 50 reporting party says he's going to be outside and attempting to make contact with you.
Isn't that where we threw her out of? She caused a disturbance over there?
Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, now she's causing a disturbance over at the Knights Inn. Sooner or later, she's not going to have anywhere to stay.
Yeah, Staples and SBIG. She was at that check right there on the FedEx on.
Yeah. Okay. okay. Well, I'm driving the property right now.
440, 10-4.
He's being taken home by the owner of the truck that was involved in the hit and run, and I just need to get the driver's information and issue him a citation for the accident.
Blue backpack.
Now I remember her. I saw him.
Out of service at Station 12, Hazmat 12 is en route to Del Mar.
Charles, X-ray 9, boy 302.
Drive Charles, X-ray 9, boy 302, 10-4. 1145.
Notices?
17. My trips.
10-4. Let me look.
By one of their patients.
Wait, or in 1206? Sandra?
Yeah, I have a 12 and a 1206, 10-4 base.
10-4. Oh, you're done with your lunch. Is that what you said?
Base, I'm on my way to drop off my last one. If you need assistance, send it through.
10-4.
May 14.
Like 14.
We spoke 1420. She's not going to look for the vehicle. She's going to make contact with the driver.
No event was needed.
10-3 quarters. However, the prime party has Nueces County documents.
No matter, they can do the report. We're not going to the city to take the report, and the child's in Kingsville.
Okay, 10-4, I'll call her back because they're advising the shooting to call Kingsville. I'll call her back.
Oh, I've already contacted, the victim was driving the F-250. The owner of the white F-250, he got in contact with his employee, and his employee lied to him, so he's sending him home, but he called me to let me know that he was taking him home and he should be there shortly. Who are we contacting? Who's the complainant?
See if they've got a key in
The Meyer?
or any way to get in the house.
120, 10-4. 110-4.
61, yeah, traffic, you keyed up.
Young 3537, Crestwater and Crestwater.
Now, around 25 years old, wearing no shirt, black shorts, walking in, and started talking about killing and hugging a tree right now. Oh my.
Door's locked. You do a call back and see if they've got a key anywhere or any way to get in.
Yes, please.
Santa Fe, RP decline contact.
Light blue jacket with a hoodie, shorts, yellow backpack.
1808 010138. 0138 is the last four.
It don't matter, I already put it in and cleared it, so they shouldn't be.
It's going to be a temp tag. This one is on the call. I'll show everything is clear.
About 5 minutes ago.
Moving for personal.
36, 2 David 1.
I'll see if it's clear.
Boy John William, 1341.
John William, 1341, 10-4.
Charlie 250.
Go ahead.
I think I have over at Mr. Louis. Weber Square parking lot in front of CEO.
Celine Pellet, 9425 Wilkins Street.
Big Claire. You still got that call pending on session?
Silver Honda Civic. 10-4. February 20th.
What more did show me clear and matter of fact, show me right from on session.
10-4.
440, 10-4.
It's going to be Frank King William 4
on station, Victor 414. We're going to follow him to Embassy House.
William 4736 is negative 29 to a 2005.
Low on radiator mix. It'll be swept to a pile at the incident location on the side of the road.
6910 at 48 Robstown.
Show me out of service for training.
Family 1 out of service for training.
And Baldwin, please. Filters. Should be able to get through.
I added pick up to your route. Building 8 is going to win building 1869.
Fuel oil call right there. To safe and Staples. I'll take it at 440.
10-4, Bravo, 50 copy.
Highway 358 westbound and Nile. Highway 358 westbound and Nile.
He's going to take the call with 440.
It's going to be 4 to 5 vehicles involved. PD has been advised, working off of EMS 1 at 1156.
We'll jump back. We'll make that call. You can cancel the other company. We're about to pass that on the highway.
13-10-4. Truck 4, I'll show you clear.
Truck 4 copy. Available in quarters.
Truck 1, assault with injuries, 1201 Leopard at City Hall.
Yeah, there's still
Being called up by medic 1, so fire in progress.
Not the 170, 10-4.
Working off EMS 1 at 012, and PD is en route.
Down, they're by the bells.
170, 10-4, right.
Yeah, I definitely have a medic unit en route. Looks like she's bleeding.
I think the Enduros are out on the phone.
Code 1, spawn shoreline 0.0.
They don't have any available close units.
I understand that. You may want to let Bravo 1 know.
We reference a white male with a gray polo shirt and blue jeans now in front of the State Farm.
Yeah, there's
attempting
still,
to open locked doors, possibly under the influence.
Walked towards...
Send to transit.
they're by the bells.
Individual, please.
Yeah, I definitely have a medic unit en route. Looks like she's bleeding.
11-10.
I'm transporting code 1, spawn shoreline 0.0.
615 Oliver.
You're transferring to shoreline 0.1.
797
What she was wearing, but she's on the sidewalk right in front of the building.
Just showing Sergio Trevino.
Okay, let me check on the last four social and the middle name.
Because both of these are showing the same social, 4164.
Loading towards the bill bonds from 1201 Leopard.
Mag 2017 utility trailer. Last 4 on the VIN is 9317. 9317 to a Travis Gaines Pollard out of Harvest Hill, the city.
Medic 9, repeat.
1600, ready time.
RBA en route with truck 1 for assault 1201 Leopard.
Treatment for some open wound care on her middle toe, dealing with her diabetes. They contacted her primary care physician who had been tending to it. According to the family, they were directed to call an ambulance and have her transported to the ER because she was not going to be treating it anymore. She does have a bandage wrapped around it. According to the family, last night she accidentally rubbed her right foot and caused it to start having some discharge and blood from the wound. It has been controlled at this time. Current blood pressure is at 126 over 84. Her heart rate's at 98. She's setting at 98% on room air. Her finger stick was 171. She is wheelchair bound. We do have her in a position of comfort. ID is established. ETA will be about 6 minutes.
Yes, ma'am. Be advised, we're still not getting voice through.
For now, but Bravo 130 advisor is the traffic jamming up on that.
Dorado, 1510 Dorado.
We have AutoNation, a black Dodge truck, a white sedan, and a beige sedan, and then a couple of other vehicles.
015.
William, available?
DM3 Frank 8 David Victor.
For Delta 150.
14 around.
180 traffic.
Oh, 480, service on there.
0329. Other one, 10-4.
TW is on wind.
805, 10-4.
219. ID 9645. Females on patrol
5955 David Victor.
5955 David Victor. 10-4.
Known as David Lincoln Mary 1763.
Katasha 620.
Lincoln Mary 1763. 10-4. 135.
02526 Nora 7.
02526 North 7.
Female Staples and Alney. 1334.
Burton Josephine, Boy King Young, 1334, 10-4.
Can you show me your occupation?
Alpha 10-4.
Agent 7. 10-4. Majority is like a victim of assault, victim of... Nothing as far as any 30...
Okay, transport comes to the airport.
North quarters at station 12.
Yeah, do that somewhere else, go. Down.
One from 30 at TEC and then...
Were you clear from your previous call?
Weber for Charlie Unit.
Lee circled 7044 Emily Circle. Call's been pending over an hour. 10-4.
Clear.
Charles 083 10-4.
1206 clear.
Super 16 in the area.
That one?
1920.
Nueces County for FT and driving the license.
Charlie, one's in there.
For suspension.
Did you get that one too?
You said NAS building 1869?
1869. 1869. That's at 2:30 ready time.
There is a picture of that one and
Yeah, Fort Basin, where is that going?
It's going to 2240 North CID. 2240 North CID.
301 to base, can I get a private?
Major accident on SCID inbounds. All three lanes blocked.
First name spelling, Boy Edward.
Oh my goodness. All units, please.
George, Nora,
Use caution.
date of birth 11/13/97.
I have sequence numbers 180-800-9915, repeating 180-800-9915.
Last name is
I'm sorry, I missed that. One more time.
Edward, Nora, Sam, Lincoln,
80-800-9915.
12073, 5 mil.
Supervisor advising.
I get that forward, but reference to crash, there were minor injuries, correct?
575 South Staple Street, Walnut Ridge Apartments, apartment 3001.
Boy, Paul, 0044. Like 15 minutes later, popped up, so, and I haven't done any more stops.
Sending a black girl, red shirt, blue pants, and a boyfriend that's trying to take the tires off the RP's vehicle.
Delia Castillo, 1203 to 1210. Well, actually 1211. I'm just leaving.
Service in progress, 5757 South Staple.
Present today,
5757 South
quorum
Staple
call.
Street, Walnut Ridge
The
Apartments.
Senate is in a quorum call.
Apartment
Ask
3001.
unanimous consent to vitiate the quorum call.
Without
objection. Present today, I'd like to report back to my colleagues here in the Senate and to the American people about the results of legislation we passed here in the United States Senate and the House, we signed into law by the President. We don't do that often enough. We tend to pass legislation and don't do the oversight to figure out whether it's working or not. In this case, this was legislation we passed on a bipartisan basis called the Stop Enabling Sex Traffickers Act. We passed it back in April. This is legislation that allows the victims of sex trafficking to get the justice they deserve by being able to sue websites that traffic them online knowingly and to be able to have some accountability for these horrible crimes that are committed online, and then also to allow prosecutors at the state and local level to be able to prosecute these cases. We drafted the legislation because after looking at this for several years, realized that there was a rise in trafficking going on, trafficking of girls, underage, trafficking of women, sometimes boys, underage, and that this was increasing primarily because of the internet. kind of the dark side of the internet. We're hearing a lot about what's going on the internet these days in terms of meddling in our elections and so on. Of all the positives on the internet, there's also a darker side, and we realized that this was happening online increasingly, and that it was a ruthlessly efficient way to basically sell people online. So we looked at it and found out that there was a federal law that was put in place with good intentions, I believe, back a couple of decades ago to try to ensure freedom of the internet, which of course all of us support, but it provided an effective immunity to these websites, even if they were selling people online knowingly. So we wrote legislation to get at that, spent about a year trying to get that through the process, and eventually got it to a vote and got it passed. The law which provided the immunity was part of the Communications Decency Act that was meant, again, to try to encourage freedom of the internet, but was taken too far, particularly in how it was interpreted by the courts.
Yeah, you have a panhandler.
The internet was something that we had to address, because without that, you would see this increase of drug trafficking and sex trafficking. So what happened? Well, after passing the law, there was a pretty dramatic change. On Monday, I was in Cincinnati, Ohio, my hometown, at a place called the Change Court. The Change Court is a place where women who are incarcerated, who are trafficked and incarcerated for prostitution, are able to go through a 2-year program to help them get clean, and if they're willing to go through this program, to let them walk away with a clean record. Understanding that sex trafficking is not a crime, that in effect they are victims of trafficking. And it's very inspiring to go there, because in that case I talked to about a dozen women who are currently in the program, some women who had graduated from the program, and the stories are unbelievable of women getting their lives back together, getting back to work, getting back to their families, in almost every case getting back to their children, because almost every case is your mom's, and having the self-respect and dignity that comes with work and getting back with your families and getting their lives back on track. It's really a much, much better alternative than the system of throwing people into jail who are, in fact, victims of this trafficking and not dealing with their issues, whether it's the trauma or whether it's the drug addiction, which in almost every case of these women, there was a drug addiction issue. Almost all of them were opiate addicts or recovering addicts. One was addicted to alcohol, but this is just common. So anyway, in talking to these women, almost every one of them said the same thing, which is yes, they had been trafficked online. And they were very interested in this legislation because, look, they've been through it. And they want to save future women and girls from having to go down this dark path. So anyway, we passed the legislation. And the SESTA legislation meant to be able to help on this issue. And I was able to tell these women at the Change Court what the results were. And they're pretty dramatic. On Monday of this week, I also met with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, or MEChANiCAL. That's the leading anti-trafficking group, really, in the country. They work day and night in trying to stop online sex trafficking. They keep track of it. They keep the statistics and the data. They particularly focus on, of course, rescuing kids from being exploited. According to MEChANiCAL, the results since SESTA is signed into law has been swift and significant. MEChANiCAL said, and I quote, "Since the enactment of SESTA and the government seizure of Backpage, that's Backpage.com, a website that was doing most of the commercial sex trafficking prior to our legislation, since the enactment of SESTA and the government seizure of Backpage, there has been a major disruption in the online marketplace. The robust marketplace for sex trafficking, including the sale of children for rape and sexual abuse that took a decade to build, fragmented over the course of just a few days," end quote. They also said, and I quote, "Many sites or portions of sites where MEChANiCAL knew children previously had been sold for sex have voluntarily shut down. Their bottom line," and I quote, "This means it is much harder to purchase a child online. This means it is much harder to purchase a child online." That's great news. And that's exactly what we intended this legislation to do. To be able to save these kids and these women, and sometimes boys, from being subject to this horrific crime. I will tell you there's another analysis that was shared with me recently. You can find this online. But this analysis found that online ads selling women and children have been reduced since our legislation passed by between 60 and 80%, depending on the state. Between 60 and 80%, depending on the state. Dramatic change. And again, having the effect of saving literally thousands of children. So I'm hopeful that we'll continue to be vigilant about this issue because, you know, when you push something down in one place, it often pops up somewhere else, doesn't it? But we have done an effective job at dealing with a very real problem. Backpage.com, which we talked about, was the industry leader. They have now been shut down. Their CEO and the company has pled guilty to numerous money laundering and trafficking-related charges. And because prosecutors can now do their work and go after these online traffickers, and because victims of this abhorrent crime can finally have their day in court, these websites that knowingly facilitate sex trafficking are being shut down and being held liable for their actions. By the way, this never would have been possible without the work of the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations. The staff there, the investigators, spent 2 years working on this issue, investigating it. We had to come all the way to this floor, to the chamber, in order to enforce our subpoenas to get the information which we were able to unveil that no one else had been able to find, which showed clearly that they knew what they were doing, they knew they were selling underage kids online. So I'm very proud of those investigators. I chair that subcommittee, it's bipartisan, and they do good work, and they deserve to be applauded given the results that we're now seeing. And by the way, it's not just Backpage. A lot of other classified websites have also shut down their personal ads, so-called, or sex-related operations. The issue of sex trafficking, again, we've made good progress on, but it is so related to the issue of opioid abuse. And specifically, as I said, this goes hand in hand often. Often traffickers find people who are addicted because they are vulnerable, because they crave the drug and the trafficker can provide it. But also, many times we have found in my home state of Ohio, as I've met with survivors, that they find vulnerable people who are not addicted, but then make them addicted, so they become dependent on the trafficker. So this is an issue that relates to so many things, doesn't it? It relates to our workplace because people who are addicted to opioids are not coming into the workforce. One reason we have such high levels of unemployment, people outside the workforce altogether, they're not showing up on the unemployment numbers because they're not even looking for work. The labor force participation rate, as economists call it, is so low right now, is largely, in my view, because of this opioid issue. Our courts are jammed, our jails are jammed, our hospital emergency rooms are jammed. We have to do more to get at this issue for so many reasons. The driving force there, in my home state of Ohio, and around the country now, is a synthetic form of heroin or opioids. It's called fentanyl. 50 times more powerful than heroin. There's other drugs called carfentanil, as an example, even more powerful. These drugs, these synthetic forms of opioids, are causing most of the deaths now in my state of Ohio and around the country. The Center for Disease Control, CDC, recently issued a report which showed this increase in overdose deaths involving fentanyl. The report analyzed overdose deaths in 10 states hit hardest by the epidemic, including Ohio. It found that fentanyl overdose deaths in those states nearly doubled from the last 6 months of 2016 to the first 6 months of 2017. They found that fentanyl overdose deaths in those states nearly doubled from the last 6 months of 2016 to the first 6 months of 2017. And of course, 2017 is the last year for which they have good records. It's unbelievable. This synthetic form of heroin is the new scourge of the opioid epidemic. And by the way, it's being spread into every other drug, too. So when I do roundtables back home, as I do regularly, I hear about it being spread into crystal meth, into cocaine, being spread to heroin, of course. Twice in roundtable discussions I've had and with community leaders, I've heard one from the police chief, one from the sheriff, both very similar stories about a young man who wakes up from an overdose after being saved through Narcan, this miracle drug that reverses the effects of an overdose. And when the young man comes to, he says, "I was just smoking pot. How did I overdose?" And in both cases, based on the forensics, the information that they were able to get from the labs, they found out, of course, that it wasn't just marijuana. It was marijuana laced with fentanyl. So no street drug is safe. They can all kill you. As I've met with these first responders, community leaders, and those in recovery across Ohio, as I just did recently with a group called Prevention First, I've heard what is often brought up by those on the front lines, and that is that we would be making so much more progress right now on this war against opioids, that we've been successful here in this Congress in passing more money for prevention and treatment and recovery. Those funds are starting to be used back home, and I see it. I see the results, and there's some really exciting stuff going on. But for the fentanyl, in other words, just as we were finally making progress on prescription drugs, and then on heroin, now this fentanyl comes in and is creating even more problems. It's so inexpensive and it's so pervasive. Recently in Ohio, there were 2 busts where they were able to apprehend people who were selling fentanyl and find this cache of fentanyl that they had. In both cases, it was a massive amount. Combined, just these 2 busts alone, enough fentanyl to kill half the people who live in my state of Ohio. That's how bad it is. Just last week, there was an autopsy that revealed that the death of an Ohio police chief from Kirkersville in the Columbus area was caused by fentanyl. The report said, and I quote, "acute intoxication by fentanyl." It was an accidental overdose. I've told before the story about the police officer who brushed a couple of flakes off of his shirt after a bust. Didn't know it was fentanyl. These flakes were the drug that got into his skin through his fingers. He dropped to the ground unconscious, had an overdose, and took several doses of Narcan to save his life. Our first responders are also in much more danger now with fentanyl than they have ever been, even with heroin and prescription drugs and other opioids. Addiction has taken too many lives in Ohio, and again, fentanyl is the deadliest drug in this epidemic. There was a recent estimation by a group called the Ohio Alliance for Innovation in Population Health, which suggested that opioids are responsible for more than 500,000 years of life expectancy lost in Ohio between 2010 and 2016. Think about that. 500,000 years of lost life due to opioids in Ohio just in the 6 years between 2010 and 2016. These are often lives of young people who had great promise ahead of them, and they become involved in this opioid epidemic, and the addiction takes over, and it's more important than anything. It's more important than their family, more important than their friends, more important than their job, more important than their faith, more important than taking care of themselves, and they end up, sadly, losing their lives and all that opportunity and all the purpose that God had for them in their lives. So we need to turn the tide on this opioid epidemic. We can't do it, in my view, unless we get at this issue of fentanyl, because that's the big new scourge. And we need to look at how it's coming, why it's so cheap. Well, here's what's very interesting and might be surprising to some people. It's not coming across the border from Mexico. Or if it is, it's very little of it. That's where the heroin's coming from, about 90% of it probably. More pure than ever, more dangerous than ever. But the fentanyl, this deadly fentanyl, is mostly coming through the mail system. It's being mailed into the United States of America, mostly from overseas, mostly from China. So there are some evil scientists somewhere in China making this fentanyl and then shipping it into your community. And it's the #1 killer right now. And by the way, opioid overdose and deaths is the #1 cause of death in my home state of Ohio. And nationally, it's now the #1 cause of death, I'm told, among people under 50 years old. So it's surpassed car accidents. It's an epidemic. So how could that be? And what can we do about it? Well, there is something we can do about it. We got to be sure that the post office helps law enforcement to find these packages as they're coming in, and to get these packages out of circulation so they don't come into our communities and poison our families, our children, our neighbors. We have legislation to do that. It's called the STOP Act. 1/3 of the members of the Senate have now co-sponsored that legislation. We've now had it reported out of the Finance Committee of the United States Senate. We need to get it to the floor and get it to a vote. It's really very simple. It's legislation that Amy Klobuchar, a Democrat, Minnesota Senator, and I have come up with that says the post office should have to do what any other carrier would have to do. FedEx, UPS, DHL, which is under law they have to tell law enforcement in advance what packages are coming in, where they're coming from, what's in it, where it's going.
You want to go to National first?
You have to provide that electronically so you can use big data to be able to sift through the millions of packages that come in and to be able to find ones that are suspect. And then immediately use sophisticated equipment to scan those and screen those and to pull, again, those out of circulation that have fentanyl. I've been to these distribution centers for these private carrier companies. I've seen how they do it. I've seen the dangerous work that the Customs and Border Protection men and women are doing, usually in a room that has significant ventilation, and they have to have masks on and gloves. They have to be very careful about it, but thank God they're there because they're saving lives. But if you send it through the mail system, that very rarely happens. We did a year-long study of this in our subcommittee, permanent subcommittee investigations I talked about earlier, and we found a number of things that were very troubling. One is just how easy it is to buy fentanyl online. But second is the fact that these drugs, when they come in through the post office, it's guaranteed delivery. The traffickers will say if you send it by FedEx or another private carrier, UPS, again, DHL and others, it's not guaranteed. But if you send it through the government agency, no problem. That's not the way it should be. And by the way, letter carriers, the mail carriers in my community, in your community, they want this fixed too. Because they care about what comes into their communities. They care about the people who they serve, and they want to be sure that they're not delivering the poison. They also are at risk, just like anybody else is who's anywhere in that train. I talked about the law enforcement officers. I think of the other first responders who are using Narcan to revive people. They sometimes get exposed to it. We have too many stories of kids, little kids dying from being accidentally exposed to fentanyl in a home where someone is using it. It's just dangerous stuff, so we've got to fix this. The information as to where it's from, where it's going, and what's in it, when it's put into a digital format and can be analyzed, can quickly, through incredible intelligence that our Customs and Border Protection people have, be able to determine whether that package is suspect or not. And that will make a huge difference in taking this offline, in keeping this poison coming into our communities, and ensuring that we can, in fact, begin to stop some of the poison, but at a minimum, raise the price by reducing the supply. The post office, frankly, because of the pressure that they've gotten from Congress on this over the last few years, have begun to start to look at some of this. They've begun to provide some of the electronic data based on testimony that they provided for our subcommittee just recently. They are now receiving data on about 36% of the international packages they transport into the country. Unfortunately, of that 36%, just over a third, about 80% of those packages are presented to law enforcement, 20% get lost and end up going into the system, into our communities, even though we know they're suspect. So it's very inefficient right now. It's not working well, plus some of the data is not decipherable. So we have a long way to go. Even if all 36% was being delivered to law enforcement, that would mean that 318 million international packages each year is coming in without any screening. 318 million packages. So the Stop Act is very simple. It just holds the post office to the same standard as private carriers, 100% screening. And requires that by 2020, they get all this data on all the international packages entering the United States. It's a common sense solution. It's already passed the House of Representatives recently with a broad bipartisan vote. Our committee has reported it out. We need to get it to the floor and get it voted on. If we do so, by the way, it will be signed, because the administration has already issued a statement of administration policy on it, which supports the legislation. It was actually a recommendation of the President's Commission on opioids. It's part of the solution. Is it the whole solution? No. But it's a critical part right now to try to stop some of this new poison, this fentanyl, from coming into our communities, the number one killer, so that we can, through treatment and recovery and through better prevention efforts and better other law enforcement efforts, truly begin to turn the tide on this opioid epidemic. It's critical we do so for so many reasons we've talked about this afternoon. And my hope is that my colleagues on both sides of the aisle will come together, at least on this issue, on the Stop Act, and say, yes, we can do something to help those in our community who are suffering, those who are dying from overdoses, those families who are looking to us and saying, what can you do to help? I run into them all the time. Today, I'm heading back to Ohio, and I know that this weekend I will be talking to people in Cleveland and Cincinnati, where I'll be in Columbus, and they will be telling me about it.
140 reach 2 in the call.
This week I was walking down the hall back to my office on Tuesday, and a young man came up to me and said, I just want to talk to you about something, and I figured he was with the media. And he wanted to ask me a question. I stopped and asked him what he wanted, and he said, I just want to tell you thank you. And he started to well up, you know, and I knew what he was talking about. I knew what he was talking about. And he was talking about a family member of his who had overdosed and died. And he was talking about the fact that he appreciates that the Congress is finally beginning to respond to this issue, as we have. In the last year and a half, we have passed legislation that is historic here to deal with this issue, but there's so much more to do. Let's make the next step getting the STOP Act enacted into law, and therefore be able to save lives and help people be able to live their God-given purpose in life. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back my time.
He pulls in. Also, I just noticed at the PCA that it's stuck.
Reaching Maine.
Adam 140, go ahead.
Adam 140, you're too far. I need to back up Adam 150 on a disturbance call.
131, let me have it. I'll take it.
Adam 140.
Adam 131, 10-4, shooting around 150 for disturbance, 3720 Brookside, 3720 Brookside at the Estates Apartments. It's going to be a male and female that were arguing. That's all third-party information, no descriptions. Railroad Spur, signal 4. That's 230, 10-4.
Sam 4956.
Santa Fe. Delta 270, 10-4, Delta 271, shooting around with 270 for disturbance, 2801 Santa Fe, a reality exchange. Contact DeAndre. I'll be around to the 4100 block of Railroad Spur, signal 4. Code 1 with a 70-year-old male accused of line of difficulty breathing. Patient's ANO times 4. Patient, chief complaint 0.
I'm on a private.
12 hours, denies any chest pain. Got a pulse of 116, BP of 138 over 68. Respiratory rate of 24.
Change my address. We're going to be going to 513 Josephine.
Sugar 155. Currently got the
28.
nasal cannula, 2 liters, and showing 99%.
At 1255.
Code 1 Bay 041. Subject 507 Ralston. Contact Erica. History dialysis, and he's current with that. We'll see you guys in about. Crazy subject in a wheelchair that's been hanging out in the area at the corner of Ralston and Alameda. White female, gray t-shirt, blue jeans, white socks, with a black hoodie over the back of the wheelchair. The 170-10-4. RP request contact. That's 10-4. 270 and 18 the other. Delta 271, I'll show you clear.
And get some address out of Portland.
I don't think I can get your roll.
Should be in the Charlie box. It's 6'5". 270, what was the number there? They were 2801, 2801.
Errors, horn mode at errors. It's going to be a gray passenger car. License plate John Charles Sam 5113.
Put me on that call, please. The hazard driver, I'm right here.
Sorry, that's fine.
Probably 460. Can you send me a message?
Adam, I know you got Adam 1 out with him.
Want to raise either one of them?
Adam 1 or Adam 120?
Your subject?
7600 Towers, Frank Williams, 7339.
2600 Dallas, Freeway,
fire property accident. 1105, 10-4, 1110, I'll show you clear. 1105, did somebody arrive with that water barrier call? K30, we're on beach.
On beach and Seagull behind the Valero.
10-4, thank you. Verbal argument.
7600
131, I'll show you clear.
7339.
Well, I'm arriving and clear.
Last name Guerrero. First name's gonna be Mary. Adam King. Adam Young.
To reopen the call at the attempt to contact at the church? 10-4, put back on it. Probably my partners will band up.
That's what 30-10-4 indicated 1247.
I need 6857.
5 feet up is accidental.
099,
27 to base, I'm heading to that next pickup. I just need to know if it's at the HEB and Cal Island, Annabelle, whatever. Okay.
20 base, I need another unit. Mechanics keeping this one.
That's why, because I do not have another unit. Okay, tell me what's out there, the closest to you.
The suspect is intoxicated.
Easy, thanks for forward.
Over to 27.
0, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 40, 35, 66, 67, Sheffield.
Go ahead.
29 ID card, only current clear.
Okay, you go in. It's before Woldridge, and when you go in, you go all the way straight down the middle, go around that circle, and the first building on the right there is her doctor's office.
Coming on 1515,
You're coming back out.
and crush card.
7450,
Gonzalez? Or
PJ's on Everhart. Is on Everhart.
Sergeant 9, you're cutting off. You said you found 6000 South Staples, right? It's right before Woldridge if you're coming from the freeway on your left-hand side. When you go in, it's just like a driveway entrance, but you'll see the green, I don't know, I think it's Brook Hollow. You turn in there, you go all the way straight in, make that circle around the fountain. The first building on your right, when you're coming back out, that first building, after the circle, it's stop right there, and her officer's office is there.
We'll be at 10-4. PJ's on Everhart.
Point of alarm, panic keypad. 11 en route.
4-4.
450, right?
1-1.
450, 10-4.
20 code 1, destroy line, begin rally 0.1.
60 line.
28 clear.
Navigation 37, 10-4.
4 from this route, and I'm gonna take this unit to the maintenance because they said to take it over there after my route, and they were gonna do a PI. But I'm gonna need that bus. I'm gonna have to talk to them. 19 to base.
She's out here on the DL checkpoint, man.
90 base.
She's also standing right here. Hang on.
39 to 1305.
G13 arrived.
Hey, Supervisor 29. What's up? Need to go.
Base. Need a base. Go ahead.
Base, you got 31, 30. You got 10 and 13. Can you take, is 2004 there? 2004? Let me checking the area for McDonald's. Don't let me look.
Checking McDonald's.
AM King, Lincoln Harbor 5664, 10-4. 1 South Country Club Place, 51 South Country Club Place with a cross street of Upper Road. It's going to be a 79-year-old male. Advice, Brother is deceased. Working off of EMS 1 at 1307.
Sure, confirm King, we can tell him 9297, Delta 3, go ahead.
17 Paul 3774, Brandon.
King Paul 37.
Show me arriving at Civil Medical Command.
Delta 340, copy, please. 10 4, 1308.
340, go ahead.
King Frank John, 3368, switch number.
960, show me arriving on that 7465 on Bora address.
210 4.
Country Club, please. 51 South Country Club. Contact David Canales.
Adam 131 for me.
David King Paul 3774, Brandon.
David King Paul 3774, en route.
Now, 7 show me out at the subway off of Brownsville.
King Frank John, 3368, switch number.
Yeah, Greenwood and Holly. David Lincoln Victor, line 326.
South Padre Island Drive at the La Quinta.
6 unknown Holly.
1533
Holly.
Is that a long holding?
1533 Holly, 10 4.
We got 28. Can I get the last 20 then?
3 for electrical burn, 3106 Elgin. 3106 Elgin for the cross street of Tarleton. Call still coming in. Female saying she's needing EMS. Fire and PD was electrocuted. PD has been advised. Working off of EMS 1 at 1310.
The white female, blonde hair, blue shirt, and a Hispanic male with black and blue shirt.
New line.
230, 10 4.
I'm caught up.
Delta 240, I'm clear. Need to be in route to building 5.
Just came over here to this one and topped off real quick.
Winter 13625 Camino de Oro, Court of Corpus Christi. Showing me negative 29.
Alright, well, no, getting to it.
20.
Thanks for your help.
He's about 2 minutes. He's going to be in North Dodge Durango. Location?
Tribes, Everhard, Yorktown, John William George, 6
For engine 8, for a pickup assist, 4730 Air Street, 4730 Air Street, apartment 1. It's going to be a 48-year-old male. Needs assistance getting up. Front door will be open. Working off a fire dispatch at 1313.
LA for 50 traffic.
Over 60 location?
Everhard at Woodridge, Henry Frank Paul, 7759.
And pickup time.
Frank Paul 7755, Everhard and Woldridge, Charlie 450 location.
Eligible. Has an ID, expires 2020, 333 Oleander Avenue. And he is showing to be a negative 29. The CCW, I'm still waiting for it to come back. Like this. Is ready to here for some information? Yes, sir. Go ahead. I'm going to have 2 MC warrants. One for public they're both for public intoxication. And let me see the CTW. On the CTW, nothing has come back for that address on Port Air Shopping Center. That works. Thank you, sir.
1522 Command Chief, beginning mileage will be
Charlie 455, is it going to be related to your call?
So I'll be out for a meeting at the CCISD Administration Office in Mount Leopard.
David, John 995, Alameda Punish.
Well, I'll be out there.
130, 10 4.
4, engine 4. Pray for a man down, unknown nature. Prescott and Harriet. It's going to be a 50-year-old male, incoherent. Will be on sidewalk, wearing a white shirt, possibly fell, working off a fire dispatch at 1315.
Before we come.
Big call, possibly fell. You want the Unisco code or no code?
Arriving 4.3. No code.
Charlie 120, Charlie 230 for an unknown man down, Prescott and Harriet. For a 50-year-old male, possibly fell, be on the sidewalk. Male in a white shirt. Oh.
5-year mobile.
Can I help you with something?
Insurance,
Male name,
confirmed,
last name,
Rick 761.
Because you contacted him by some apartments and a laundromat.
CIT 1 and 2 number is 7.
Sir.
You talking about Robstown? For the Alameda one, for Mr. Alfredo, I think it's Alfredo, or yeah, Alfredo Cedillo. The drop off on Morgan. Alameda, 1531 South Alameda.
Delta 150, I'll show you cleared. Adam 160.
What number do you have on the call?
1531, key holder right.
7077.
5874.
That's number that was incomplete.
Available returning.
10.12,
Time to Sanford, advise they were en route.
Victor, have a good day.
Robert Charles, Zebra, Adam King, last is Adam King, St. Trenton, Tom Robert Edward, Nora Tom, Ocean Nora, 910, 17, I'm here. I tried to call the lady and all I got was voicemail. Mahindra tractor, please. Spot J2.
Doctor, post the park car by parking spot J number 2. That is her parking spot.
Okay, I'll have to go over and find it.
Database, can I have a private on unit 3016, please?
What's for somebody? Okay, what's the other one?
Your T-Sun's going to be 6. 11 over the air at Tamu CP for a walkthrough.
3, Edward.
Edward, 1321. The 29, I'm not getting a 27 return at all.
Yes, ma'am, we're available with a level 4.
Next line available will be a level 4.
So far advised, we got the first one, which was sent over, but we're waiting on the second one from Austin, and that's what CDC needs, so they should be sending it here momentarily. I'm just waiting for them to send it.
Pretty long as well.
17, you have went past the lady twice, sir. She's waved you and everything. Please try to do this slowly so you can pick her up.
No, I'm at 3003 Chapel Creek Drive.
The pastor's wife.
She's not answering the phone.
Please drive around there very slowly.
When you turn into the gate, just drive straight down, and it's like maybe the 4th or 5th parking space from the end.
Charlie, Webstar, 286 at County Road 14A. 286 County Road 14A.
20, negative 29, entrance confirmed. 2010, correction, 2018 Honda Civic 4-door, black in color, scary.
I mean, it's not going to be on the roadway for Brown Cow left side.
Found the last name, call item Charles Ocean, moving out of the rental house.
You did want me to park it out here, right, or did you want me to take it to maintenance?
We'll park it out there in the parking lot because we need it. We need it.
I'm here.
Maybe you've been running, I'm not sure, maybe from his...
9, 10, and 22.
Blue, Mary Robert David, 827 Silver on Central. Go ahead.
man. 10-4.
Delta 170, is it clear for 7?
7 location.
Subway 3133 Alameda. 1697. One 36 direct.
Zero, show me route to Bravo 130's location.
1601. Address 513, same way.
4, thank you. Sam, Tom, Ida, Robert.
10-4.
120. Can you see that and you see the marshals available?
Mr. President,
Majority Leader.
I ask unanimous consent to appoint Mr. Dust appear separately in the record as if made by the chair.
113 for base,
Without
can you
objection.
send
I
a,
ask unanimous consent that the following legal remarks on Monday, July 23rd, the Senate proceed to executive session with the consideration of the following nomination, Executive Calendar 1000.
113B
I
on
ask
bus
consent
2010.
that the time until 5:30 be equally divided in the usual form. And following the use or yielding back of time, the Senate vote on the nomination with no intervening action or debate. That if confirmed, the
We have
motion
a
be considered
facility
and
parked
considered made
vehicle,
and
hit
laid
and
upon the
run,
table.
a minor, and a
President will
disability.
immediately notify the Senate's action, that no further motions be in order, and that any statements related to the nomination be printed in the record.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent that following the disposition of the Wilkie nomination, that the Senate resume legislative session and proceed to consideration of H.R. 6147.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent that when the Senate completes its business today, it adjourn until 3 p.m. Monday, July 23rd. Further, that following the prayer and pledge, the morning hour beginning at 5, the general proceedings be approved to date, and the leaders be reserved for use later in the day, and morning business be closed. I ask that following legal remarks, the Senate proceed to executive session under the previous.
Without objection.
So if there's no further business to come before the Senate, I ask to stand adjourned under the previous order following the remarks of Senator Sullivan.
I'm assuming, I'm not
Without
100%.
objection.
I'll keep you in the loop as soon as they get here. I'm assuming that's the only person they can't take them right now.
Well, I mean, there's no pre-arrangements made, right? There's no pre-arrangement?
Traffic, sir.
Unattended is normal procedure.
It's a good thing they got a brother and stuff. I'm sure the front says something.
Okay. Go on up.
Gray 2017. Sent to Monica Bermia Estrada out of Rio Hondo, Texas.
Okay, 10-4.
Estrada, middle last name of Bermia, but Estrada's last name.
Okay, 10-4. Negative 29, checks out of Westaco. No restrictions, class trials expires 2022, status is clear. Also found a Fiat 27 out of Indiana, also clear and valid.
10-4, attach both, please.
5914, Naughty Oaks. 91 7014.
3500 South Alameda on Frank Paul William, 1123.
100 South Alameda, Frank Paul William 1123. A suit with custody that came in on Flint. He's requesting cancel. Advise they made the exchange of the child.
Thank you, 17.
So is this that?
And checked out of Westaco. ID card only expires 2020 status clear. Also found a regular ID card out of Indiana also.
No location was at the substation, at the Bluff substation. He's been there for an hour and 54 minutes on an investigation. Do you know if he was there or did you see him there?
Look him up. I'm in that vehicle. Subject, last name Rodangel, Robert Adam Nora.
260-10-4.
First name Keith, Midverse,
Southbound, David Zebra Sam 2282, David Zebra Sam 2282.
Team B to base.
When you get a chance, can you meet me up patrol?
Brownlee at the MSF Community Health Center, or the cross street of Mackenzie Street. It's going to be a 63-year-old female and low blood pressure. We'll be in the front office. We're going to have a fire dispatch at 1330. 424.
Have you received anything from Austin yet?
Negative, I'm about to call them.
Roosevelt, 6 Mary Paul, William John.
He's at Roosevelt, 6 Mary Paul, William John, 10-4.
10-4, thank you.
Street 4109 Christie Street. Contact Veronica Martinez. Victor William 0064 10-4.
Aldridge Place Nursing Center. Call to location. Female with a sore throat requesting medics. Or dispatch at 109.
Oh, well, good, quick.
10-4.
No, it was longer than that. It was like a month ago.
Now, 118.
Yes, but...
Advising that a male was pistol whipped and suspects are the RP's landlord.
Charlie, 220, I'll be clear here. Just put me on that Christian call.
Call to location. Female with a sore throat requesting medics. Or dispatch at 109.
I have a lot of 1500s, 1600s. Does anybody need assistance right now with this trip?
I'm double checking now. I think it was
113, B to base.
Okay, that was a false call for them, right?
Progress between it was a red Mustang and a black truck. The black truck is the suspect vehicle. The suspect looks like he had a 9mm gun. He took a left on Horn. They're advising towards Christie. On Horn towards Christie.
Sure, check your pants, please. Oh. 1904.
John Wayne, George 6660 10-4.
We gotta kind of give it some time to build up before you take off. Now you tell me. Thank you.
Can you hold that call, 350? We'll be logging in shortly.
10-4. 350, I'll show you holding off till I get you your backup.
Charlie, 20 right.
Saying no EMS.
Charlie 220, 10-4.
John William George 6660 10-4.
18.
Tell me right to training, Corona.
In the Corona, 10-4.
Adam 420 location.
Almost 6 paper served.
10-5-1.
10-4.
Point Greenwood 10-4.
301 1044.
Thanks for your time. We're gonna be safe. Yeah.
14 did advise, spoke to the nursing staff, going to be a false call.
Sorry, coming out to my residence for equipment.
George North Victor 3839.
Declare.
Read your unit again.
Rob Palmedic 2.
Apartment number B, boy 1. Contact Alexandria.
1600, Jordy King Frank, 1600. Recovered today's date, 4502 Corona Drive, Authority Charlie 130. Control 2, 1344. 130, 10-4.
Meters 02, ETA is about 8 to 10 minutes.
Okay, can you check the subject for me by the last name of Blanco, first name Eloy, date of birth 10-7-49?
Are you on a call?
Well, this is reference to case number I got earlier, 0061, citation, DL number, stuff like that for the report. Either everybody's dead in there. Delta 410-10-4.
CAT 1 in line.
Delta 460 for your plate, key, rubber heat, 471, insurance. You definitely you're loaded, copy. Delta 460.
You need over there to leave that officer at Country Club.
Mr. President,
Senator from Alaska.
Mr. President, it's Thursday afternoon, and it's one of my favorite times of the week, and I know for many of my fellow senators, including the presiding officer and the Pages, this is one of their favorite times of the week, too, because it's the time that we get to talk about the Alaskan of the week. Now, there are people, I had a couple people today come up, hey, Senator, when are you giving your speech on the Alaskan of the week? I saw him later, and he said, okay, well, we're going to keep an eye on it because people find a lot of interest in what's happening in the great state of Alaska. Now, the Alaskan of the week, as many of my colleagues know, is somebody who we like to highlight, who's just done great stuff for the state. Community, town, state, maybe country, sometimes it's someone famous. But, Mr. President, oftentimes it's somebody who's been working really hard for much of their life who doesn't get a lot of recognition. Who's doing it? The heroes of the community. And so that's why we like to talk about the Alaskan of the week. It's also a great opportunity to talk to people in the gallery, people watching on TV and C-SPAN, to get them to come on up to Alaska. Come on up. It'll be the trip of a lifetime. Of course, it's a gorgeous, huge state, mountains, glaciers, wildlife. But here's something else. When you get off the plane and you go to Alaska, you get the sense of freedom, liberty. You can almost breathe it in ways that you can't in other places. So I ask everybody who's watching, come on up. You'll love it. It'll be a trip of the lifetime. You'll feel that freedom in the air like you do in almost no other place in the world. So, Mr. President, let me introduce you to our Alaskan of the week, Jeannie Follett, who has displayed incredible commitment to keep our state clean and special. All right, let's talk about Jeannie. She was born in Detroit. She moved to Anchorage when she was just 6 years old and has called Alaska home ever since. Like so many Alaskans, she's led a very interesting and varied life. She began her professional career as a court reporter for the Anchorage Daily News, our big newspaper, covering all kinds of trials when the state was still new and our court system had just been formed. Remember, we're a very young state. Eventually, she moved to Girdwood, which is a beautiful ski resort town outside of Anchorage, where she was a breakfast cook and managed condos. She got a bit restless. She packed up her 65 Mustang and drove across the country, but missed Alaska so much, she came back, home again, and then she worked on the Trans-Alaska Pipeline, TAPS as we call it, that flows the billions of barrels of oil from the North Slope down to Valdez for an energy-hungry country like ours. And then she met her husband, Ken, when she was working on the Trans-Alaska Pipeline. They bought and restored a lodge in a wonderful small community called Moose Pass, a warm, welcoming, and gorgeous Alaska community in the heart of the Kenai Peninsula, about 100 miles south of Anchorage. If you're going to go fish the famous Russian River, Moose Pass is a great home base. Ken and Jeannie worked at the resort until they both retired, Jeannie always liked to keep her yard and her surroundings clean and organized, free of trash. But when her husband Ken unfortunately got sick, and then tragically she lost him over 13 years ago, Jeannie began to spend her days helping clean up the state, picking up trash on the road by her house, further and further from her home in Moose Pass. Now, Mr. President, think of this. As the snow melts in Alaska and in all sorts of weather, to this day, Jeannie laces up her hiking boots, grabs her visor, her gloves, her safety vest, drives up the highway to the spot where she left off the previous day, and she starts cleaning up the highway. Every single day. She gets out her bags, she starts walking and cleaning up trash on the side of the highway. And this highway abuts the majestic, beautiful Chugach National Forest. She guesses that every summer she spends 3 to 6 hours a day volunteering, picking up trash. Think about that. Alaska is a beautiful, pristine place. As a matter of fact, that's one of the things that when people come to visit, they're going to see. But like all states, in particular highway areas and states, you have some garbage. And so Jeannie takes action every single day. Doesn't get paid. 3 to 6 hours a day. 5 days a week. She's out there cleaning up the highway. Remarkable. Sometimes friends and neighbors come and help out. Boy Scouts join her. One summer she picked up 800 bags of trash to keep Alaska clean and pristine. People stop on the side of the road to talk to her, ask where the nearest gas station is. Sometimes people donate gas money to her because remember, she's starting where she left off the next day just to drive up the highway 40 miles to continue. So it's not just time and effort, it's actual money. She thinks her presence on the side of the highway helps motivate others. There was a story recently on KTUU, Channel 2, that's our big news station in Alaska, and she said in that story, she thinks that she's helped inspire people to help keep the whole state clean, whether it's picking up trash themselves or not throwing litter outside your car. So why does she do it? Why does she do it? Several hours a day, no pay, day after day, week after week. She does it because she loves Alaska. She wants to keep it clean. She doesn't want the many tourists. We have hundreds of thousands, really millions of tourists who come to our state to see trash when it's going to be a trip of a lifetime. She said, quote, it embarrasses me to think that tourists from the lower 48 might show up in Alaska and see trash. So I'm going to clean it up. She does it because it's her way to give back to a state that has given her so much. She also gets to see things that others don't see often. Beautiful wildflowers on the road, creeks, secret vistas. I'm sure she's seen a few bears and a lot of bald eagles and moose. She even saw a man once walking a chicken. Yes, you see everything in Alaska. A man walking a chicken. Well, Jeannie, she's found lost items on the side of the road, fishing licenses, cell phones, cameras, and she tries her best to get these back to their owners. Once she found a set of hubcaps that had contact information on it for the owner. When she called and told him she had his hubcaps, he couldn't believe it. He was tickled pink to get his hubcaps done. So, Mr. President, I think every state has somebody like Jeannie, there's no doubt. We all owe a debt of gratitude to people like her working selflessly, volunteering thousands of hours to keep our states clean like Alaska, to keep America clean. So Jeannie, thanks for what you're doing for the great state of Alaska, and thank you and congratulations on being our Alaskan of the week. I yield the floor.
The subject was just sleeping.
For the previous order, the Senate stands adjourned until Monday at 3 p.m.
Victor Stores and Tiger.
C71, 10-4.
Female phone with a head injury now, one possibly unconscious. EMS 1, 122.
130, copy. Thank you.
170 is clear.
170 clear.
575, caller declining contact.
Advised for connector dispatch at 1403.
141, 10. Ran out of gas, going to the gas pump.
Between two females, one with a head injury now, one possibly unconscious. EMS 1, 122.
Walking in the roadway on Weber towards Saratoga, wearing a white towel on her head, a blue shirt and blue jeans. RP decline contact.
415 is 26, class C, flight 2021. Out of 426.
470 route.
So this is really copy plate.
4930, is that north or south of Saratoga? So is that north or south of Saratoga?
Answering the roadway, it's going to be at Weber, Saratoga. She was headed Weber towards Saratoga. That's going to be south. Go ahead.
John Sam Henry, 2618.
Sam Henry, 2618. Go ahead to the next.
Charles Tom, X-ray 9301.
X-ray 9301 in your next.
DP41, the last one's going to be John Sam Henry, 10.
Out at the end. John Sam Henry, repeat the last.
78-year-old male.
2610.
10, 10-4.
One. As well.
10-4, thank you.
5263.
William John Lincoln Henry 5263.
Sleepy Lane. It's going to be a Hispanic female. Advise 280, 10-4.
Senate will come to order. Today's opening prayer will be offered by Reverend Dr. Richard Gibbons of First Presbyterian Church from Greenville, South Carolina.
Sorry, dispatch at 124. That's fine.
He instructed Lazy Lane. They advise
Let us join our hearts in the
King Lincoln Albert 5426.
Let us pray. Gracious God and loving Heavenly Father, as we prayerfully seek your presence, enable us amidst complex challenges to be refreshed and renewed by the transforming nature of your extravagant love. Impart to us a profound sense of gratitude, thankful that in your sovereign purposes we are a people conceived in liberty, shaped by adversity, dedicated to equality, while fully dependent on you, for in God we trust. Father, grant to us a renewed sense of your power, sustained by the enduring values we hold to be self-evident. Equip us by your Spirit to be a Senate defined by consensus through compassion, expertise enlightened by experience, leadership resistant to polarization and expediency, yet intentional in unity, honesty, transparency, and integrity, as together we seek to be one nation under God. We bring our prayers to you in and through the name of Christ our Lord.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag.
Is it my turn? I had to step away and make a traffic stop. Am I up?
Very tag. Green Ford Explorer. Weber, King Lincoln Robert, 5807.
6300 Bronco Weber, King Lincoln Robert 5807. 2 is unconfirmed.
Clerk will read a communication to the Senate.
Washington, D.C., July 19, 2018. To the Senate. Under the provisions of Rule 1, Paragraph 3 of the Standing Rules of the Senate, I hereby appoint the Honorable Cindy Hyde Smith, the Senator from the state of Mississippi, to perform the duties of the Chair. Signed, Orange Hatch, President Pro Tem.
September 2018, September.
She's going to have to go back to the
Under the
DC's
previous
office.
order, the leadership time is reserved.
Had it with State Farm Insurance Company.
Another brush country pickup, going to Beard for...
And on that plate.
Release.
Spray tag.
10-4. Thank you so much. 10-4. Just give me the address. What's the drop-off for Beard?
921 is outside.
Beard.
Quiet, be clear.
10-4, 4326 Beard.
Thank you. 10-4. Bravo 440 copy. I'll show you quick.
You had a lot of static and you were breaking up. Can you repeat the name of the subject?
All I have is first name and last name. See if there's victims of anything.
What's the name?
Last name is called
628 Eddie.
Oh, for 20.
And what's going to be the first name?
Outside, being quiet,
Yes,
clear.
with a CIO. 10-4. Bravo 440 copy. I'll show you quick. 1100 Leopard at the HEB. Contact Phil.
340, 10-4.
Cap, camo shirt and shorts with a teardrop tattoo on the eye.
Adam, 320, come up.
One I don't know.
Adam, 330, I'm clear with comment.
330, so far. Adam 320, let me show you en route to that abandoned vehicle, 5005 Chancellor Row, 5005 Chancellor Row at the Fencing Incorporated.
10-4 up.
Over 20, Bravo 40.
Expired.
The
January
crew officer is going to be waiting outside the location for you. Advising that one of the subjects is inside, no description, and the other one's possibly out on the balcony, no description.
28.
Command 998 Ruben Chavez, apartment 244, follow up.
See her today. Having difficulty breathing. EMS 1 at 129. 95, show you around to 403. Bravo 40. The crew officer is going to be waiting outside the location for you, advising that one of the subjects is inside, no description, and the other one's possibly out on the balcony, no description.
3648.
447.
What's the first name?
Difficulty breathing. EMS 1 at 129.
420.
271.
271.
The Senate's continuing our productive summer. This week, we've been focused on confirming more of the President's qualified nominees. After his confirmation yesterday, Andrew Oldham of Texas will now bring his impressive credentials and years of distinguished public service to his new role on the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. Today, we're considering the nomination of Ryan Bounds to serve on the Ninth Circuit. Each of these nominees has been selected by the President and his team for their credentials, reputations, and commitment to the rule of law. Each has been thoroughly examined by our colleagues on the Judiciary Committee. Ryan Bounds is no exception. He's earned degrees from Stanford and Yale. He clerked for the very Ninth Circuit judge he's been nominated to succeed. For the past 14 years, he's distinguished himself as a public servant at the Department of Justice and in his current role as the Assistant U.S. Attorney for Oregon. Along the way, he's earned the respect and recognition of legal professionals from across the country and the political spectrum. 46 of his colleagues in the District of Oregon described his admirable work ethic, keen judgment, masterful writing as skills that colleagues and opponents alike seek to emulate. In a letter to our Senate colleagues from Oregon, criminal defense attorneys who've litigated against Mr. Bounds testified to his great fairness, diligence,
and legal acumen. They write he has shown time and time again that he's a man of his word. He's an excellent lawyer and would make an outstanding judge. A number of law professors from across the country seem to agree. They remind us of the standards to which this body is charged with holding judicial nominees: fairness, impartiality, intellectual rigor. To sum it up, in the words of one legal peer, Ryan has all of this and more. So, Madam President, I look forward to voting to confirm this excellent nominee and would urge all of my colleagues to join me. Speaking of excellent nominees, I'd like to speak for a moment about President Trump's outstanding choice for the Supreme Court, Judge Brett Kavanaugh. This week, even more of our colleagues have had the opportunity to meet with Judge Kavanaugh. I'm sure they'll agree that it's hard not to come away impressed. The academic achievement, the judicial credentials, the esteem of his peers and fellow legal professionals. Of course, that hadn't stopped the far-left special interest groups from grasping at straws and trying to smear his nominee any way they can. They don't seem to care whether it's honest or not. They don't seem to care whether it's accurate or not. The latest made-up controversy is an attempt this week to make hay out of comments Judge Kavanaugh made about the long-ago expired independent counsel statute. But once again, there's no there whatsoever. Here, Madam President, are the facts. Judge Kavanaugh's apparent concerns about the independent counsel law appear in line with mainstream views that have been widely held on both sides of the political aisle. Views that were, in fact, strongly held by many of my Democratic colleagues, at least until there was an opportunity to try to make political hay. Congress chose to let the statute expire back in 1999, based in large part on constitutional concerns. Let me say that again. Congress, in 1999, on a bipartisan basis, decided to let the independent counsel statute expire. My colleague, the senior senator from Illinois, the assistant Democratic leader in the Senate right now, explained this well when he was fighting any attempt to renew the statute. Here's what he said in 1999 about the independent counsel: unchecked, unbridled, unrestrained, and unaccountable. My friend from Illinois punctuated his enthusiasm for the demise of the independent counsel by saying, "I'd like to say to Judge Starr and all of the counsels, your days are numbered." I agreed with him about the independent counsel statute. A number of us in both parties saw it the very same way. So we happily allowed the law to expire. This has nothing to do with special counsels. That's different from the independent counsel. The day the independent counsel statute expired, the day we actually finished with the impeachment trial of President Clinton here in the Senate, Senator Chris Dodd from Connecticut and I went upstairs and had a press conference and said we agree the independent counsel statute ought to be allowed to expire, and it did. That has nothing, Madam President, to do with special counsels or any of the other tools that are currently in place for elected officials to be held accountable. This has nothing to do with any investigations that are in the headlines today. Judge Kavanaugh was talking about was a law that has not existed for 2 decades, and which the Supreme Court upheld with only a single dissenting vote. And one of the dissenters in the case that upheld the independent counsel statute was Justice Scalia. The irony or hypocrisy is that our Democratic colleagues are now criticizing Judge Kavanaugh because he may hold the same views on this subject that they did.
John Lincoln Sam 7451.
Or at least they did up until Judge Kavanaugh was nominated. A view that was shared and acted upon by members in this body on both sides of the aisle, as I have explained. So another day, another off-base attack. Here's how Newsweek dismissed this tempest in the teapot. Law experts told Newsweek that Kavanaugh's view on independent counsels has nothing to do with special counsel or Mueller's probe. And in fact, the two types of federal investigations are completely different. Yet again, The far-left special interest groups who are desperate to deny Judge Kavanaugh fair treatment are hoping the media will buy their latest made-up charge.
It's going to be reference the owner.
Remember the outrage when it was learned that Judge Kavanaugh enjoys baseball? My goodness.
They say his first name is Leo, but they don't know his last name.
Well, I'm proud the President has chosen a nominee as strong as Judge Kavanaugh. We should put aside these unfair attacks and misrepresentations and give his nomination the fair treatment it deserves. Now, the final matter, this week I've discussed a number of converging reports that highlight the strength of this economy for middle-class families and job creators. U.S. retail sales just increased for the fifth consecutive month. Earlier this year, consumer confidence hit its highest level since 2000. More than 1 million new jobs already created in 2018. More job openings than job seekers for the first time in more than 15 years. Over 95% of U.S. manufacturers are reporting confidence in their company's outlook, an all-time high. And just this morning, Madam President, this announcement from the Department of Labor. In the second week of July, new claims for unemployment benefits fell to their lowest level, listen to this, since 1969. All of these favorable trends are interrelated. Jay Powell, chairman of the Federal Reserve, testified before our colleagues on the banking committee this week that, quote, robust job gains, rising after-tax incomes, and optimism among households have lifted consumer spending this month. To put it even more simply, American employers are doing better, so American workers are doing better. So American families are doing better. So American businesses are doing better. This is how a vibrant, growing economy works. This is what happens when Washington, D.C. swallows up less of the American people's money than taxes. When it imposes fewer heavy-handed regulations that make it hard to do business and get the bureaucracy's foot off the brake of our economy. This is among the best, quite possibly the best, economic moments for jobs and opportunity that Americans have seen in recent memory. The policies of this united Republican government help bring it about, and they're helping to sustain it. Earlier this week, the Wall Street Journal reported tax cuts appear to be propelling robust consumer demand. Many households are experiencing less withholding from their paycheck thanks to the tax overhaul.
I'm going to show you clear and around Tobacco Bravo 40 at 8033, 8033 South Padre and Drive eastbound.
According to a recent survey, fewer than 1 in 5 American manufacturers now say an unfavorable climate due to things like taxes and regulations is the primary obstacle to their businesses.
And exiting towards
2013, during the Obama economy, more than two-thirds of the manufacturers said that. Two-thirds said it was a problem. In 2013, only 1 in 5. Across the country, job creators of all sizes have announced worker bonuses, pay raises, and business expansion. Many say loud and clear that tax reform is what made it possible. The American people voted. The Republicans kept our promises. So now middle-class families are seeking the effect of the pro-growth policies they asked for in 2016. And the whole world is seeing what the American people can accomplish. And the government gets off their backs.
480, it's all wind. I caught the driver inside the hotel.
220 Lotto Drive, that's 220 Lotto Drive. Looking for an 85-year-old male.
Parker Caldwell.
Has had previous heart problems, took 2 nitro pills, again, 228 Lotto.
Rob, 420, go to mobile. Bravo 480, I'm sorry.
We're going to check on the other vehicle.
Inside now.
Okay. 420 or 440 are en route, but they're Bravo 480, it's all wind. I contact you inside the hotel.
Major.
Which way, Tip 1?
450. Henry Zebra George 9515.
It's Henry Zebra George 1945.
170's right.
I'm going to call after having a seizure. Oh, 170 right. There's second call.
The other side of you.
You want to have the medical advice?
on my manifest, so I don't know what it was.
10-4, go ahead and check on the other vehicle.
Okay, well then.
4450 disregard, not a 420 for the concern at 5101 West. That's 10-4, 420 or 440 are en route, but they're just coming from a ways off.
Can you hand me that, Major?
Over 20-4.
Needed Lincoln Williams, 0454.
Make it a bullet.
Saturn and Weber intersection.
Pick up pulling a horse trailer. No plate on the bridge.
Staples dialysis going to Cascade.
10-9?
Delta 425 area.
425. Going to hit you post. If anybody can please assist.
Delta 350, 10-4.
Delta 340.
30, and we got another assault warrant, or an aggravated assault warrant.
It's going to be PC electronics in front of the building.
Says he was in voice.
No description.
I'm going to add a 1500 to your route. It's on Everhard going to Cascade for Christopher Davis.
Okay, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. I have brush, and I'm over here at St. Pius right now trying to get Virginia on board.
Terry, do you have another
Sorry, everybody's running behind.
People think the story.
It's going to be next door to the location at a business.
Just when you drop her off, go pick him up, drop him off, and then go to brush, okay?
Subject, he's unconscious, breathing. He's going to be on staples.
Multiple airbags deployed.
Thank you.
Very welcome. Passenger is
9763 La Branch, 9768 La Branch.
Copy your plate.
Paul X-ray 3599.
Around a minute. That's why we didn't take it this morning.
Leaving 438 via older model green Mustang.
Ram towards King High School on Staples.
143.
ID shows an address of 15,334 Banassi Court.
Unit 2 passenger is
Looks like there is a caution burn for being a gang member for Mexican Mafia.
10-4, new call, same location.
3 Robert Norris 7092. Sorry, they copy?
Last set is representing.
Yeah, 1719. Nothing came through. You were dropping out and you had some static.
3, 10-4. 10-4.
The female. Third party.
Super 60, 10 4, 5813. Can you be on to check up?
10-4. Charlie 230, I'll show you clear.
Charlie 440 arrived.
440 arrived.
4928 clear.
4928 clear.
Corner.
Where you look?
Base unit 2033 is ready, parked online.
All right, thank you so much. Do it again?
Unit 10-7 on 5 left driver and a half passengers on board.
Airport.
Which range are we going to be to? 10-4.
We got pulled over with what looked like a stolen vehicle.
10-4.
195.
440 to 4.
Good Alameda, King X-ray Zebra 6195.
Out on a subject at the corner of Coleman and 19th. Start me another unit, please.
Roger, iconic model 21 clear, and I'll back up 140.
Well, we're going to need a third unit.
I did find that, yeah, it's going to be that subject, Mark Alvarez.
Be around to back up there, 4223 South
He is
Alameda.
coming back negative 29. Does show to be a gang member of the Mexican Mafia.
Go for it.
Stopping at Williams and Pinewood.
2928. Can I get the last 40 then?
28 last 4 0494. 0494.
355.
Yeah, if you have one, keep off our way.
Charlie 433, being allowed to back them up at 4223 South Alameda at Club Icon. Not yet, and the thieves are advising that it occurred, it was stolen last night, and the RP sitting across the street from Church's Chicken. Sitting in a white Toyota Corolla. Time 2 shots heard, no other
George 5393, we're going to be going over to 3106 Elgin to try and get an AC unit to be replaced.
Engine 3, available.
Name is Sharon, Sam, Henry, Adam, Robert, Union, Mary, 81682.
Go ahead, 10251.
Call for medic 10. Medic 10 for a sick call. To a 64-year-old male patient. Stomach cramps and vomiting. Medic 10, work on fire dispatch at 1453.
King Charles William 6551.
Everybody's out here is intoxicated, including the victim.
Medic 10-4. Medic 10 calls for y'all back.
The victim is intoxicated, conscious breathing, walking around on his own.
Medicate, updates advise patient is also having some difficulty breathing. I'll go ahead and start you an engine. And also slurred speech.
21 Charlie.
Light on the truck is going to be King Charles
You'll have one at Golfway.
6551.
Yeah, 10-4, go ahead. Shoot me a crash number. 430.
10-4.
Everybody's out here is intoxicated, including the victim. Should nobody really know what's going on. The victim is intoxicated, conscious breathing, walking around on his own. 10-4.
870087.
Or transport.
Well, for 44.5 at 148, 5813. Just be advised you'll have one at Golfway.
We'll be clear, and can you show us the route to 655 Robert?
140. The subject is conscious and breathing. He blew a tire on his bike.
Not going to be a 38-10-4.
Charlie 250, Officer Park, showing route to Walnut Hills.
Airline Road at the Christiewood Apartment, 2006. Airline Road at the Christiewood Apartment. Contact Stan Salazar.
Go to the Padre Island stores on the island and take her to St. Joseph Street.
Is conscious and breathing. He blew a tire on his bike.
Picking up at Anchor, taking Samba Boy to the island. Is that what you're saying?
After you drop off on Samba, you can go to the island. Yep.
Medic 3.
Okay.
Rotation, code orange.
Can I get the info for Ability House?
10-4, 2 rotations are en route.
35 leaving New York.
Thank you. 10-4, have a good day. Okay, these are first Saturday Ability House.
Missing a shoe, but his shoe's actually
4110 Historic for Francis Grassi and Eugenio Gonzalez.
He was just intoxicated. It was just laying down on the ground.
I have Henry George 1945 and David Robert Norris.
Eugene Gonzalez.
Yeah, it's 10-4.
And they're going to 1325 Sandpiper.
10-4.
Sandpiper is where? Is that the one that's off of Ennis Joslin or whatever? Alright.
Niall.
Ennis Joslin.
Thank you so much.
Alright, Sandpiper, thank you. Thank you, Unit.
When the lights are green, I got witness over.
Thank you.
Tina 1 Trojan. Is anyone else with you?
Call.
Alan 350. I did not. I just took the channel back. I can get you back on it. It's going to be 5796.
Boy, Adam 4,
10-4, 2 rotations are around. Easy Rider.
Boy, Adam 4, 4549, 10-4. goes en route to Holly and Paul Jones, Kiowa.
Put a crash number on there, and you got your rotation still?
31 adult female at 1500.
LA220 for wanted person at 2317 Joyce, number 4. 2317 Joyce, apartment number 4, male outside of the location, intoxicated, causing problems.
Playing over that team Garcia, Joseph Jose Raimundo, Robert Adam Young, Mary Jr., Nora, David Ocean, Cynthia Jr., 5'11", 67 white male.
See if I using the 20 or
just 20.
Give me a route to the Family Dollar and Agnes, please.
News Papa Limited King, Lincoln Robert, 2167.
CDC 1 adult male.
Hey, I left my handcuffs at CDC. If you get there before me, could you get them for me and hold on to them?
Oh.
My contact.
513, contact Heather.
Connection on the front side of the restaurant now.
397. 7180.
Roadway.
That sounds similar, clear. Is there a shots heard call pending at Sierra Blanca and Everhart? Be advised, I'm following up on an address that an officer sent me.
Good, there you go. Where's the alley?
132 Delta 140. Towards the back of the complex. The victim is in a pink shirt, and it's a Hispanic male with a white and black shirt. Will be next to 315 Buccaneer in a garage nearby. Reserve a shots heard call pending at Sierra Blanca and Everhart. Just one call on it.
28 airline. 2150, by your radio, it's good.
Good, there you go.
Joe 340, clear 10-4. Your subject, Andrew Epperson, he is 29, but looks like it's going to be out of Indiana. Extradition is going to be only surrounding states. And that was going to be for contempt of court for identity theft. He does show to have,
Is that,
like it's going to be 3 MC warrants.
DWI from the DL checkpoint? 4, thank you.
Please go. 327.
Madam President,
Democratic leader,
are we in quorum?
we are.
I ask unanimous consent the quorum be dispensed.
Without objection.
Now, Madam President, in the 3 days since the President returned from his humiliating display of obsequiousness in Helsinki, he has offered numerous explanations for his behavior. First, he said the media was too focused on the negative, and that his summit with Putin was a great success. Then, admitting there was in fact a problem, he attempted to walk back some of his comments. But he even couldn't commit to that, ad-libbing that other people could also be responsible for interfering in the 2016 election. A mere 24 hours later, the President was back to claiming that it wasn't his fault, the media was biased. And then astoundingly, the President hadn't learned his lesson, because astoundingly, when he asked yesterday whether Russia was still attacking our election system, the President replied, no. This was, of course, followed by yet another implausible clarification in which, surprise, his press secretary told reporters that's not what the President meant. Although when you actually looked at the tape, it was clear as a bell it was what the President meant. He was saying that Russia was not still attacking our election system. Once again, disbelieving all of the fine men and women who labor quietly, diligently in our intelligence agencies who have reported this. The constantly shifting, insincere, and thoroughly unconvincing explanations for the President's performance reveal that his President and his team do not understand the depth of President Trump's blunders with Putin. And frankly, any post hoc clarification cannot substitute or repair the president's failure to confront Putin face to face. All his walkbacks, which then get undone, but all his walkbacks are done in the wrong place at the wrong time. There's this man who prides himself on being strong, afraid to say these things to Putin, and he has to wait till he's 6,000 miles away to say them. Unbelievable. One of the most stunning things about the summit was the president's openness to a request by President Putin to question former United States Ambassador to Moscow, Michael McFaul, and other Americans. In Helsinki, the president described the request as part of, quote, an incredible offer, unquote. The president's spokeswoman was asked about it yesterday. She confirmed the president and his team would discuss it. That President Trump would even consider handing over a former U.S. ambassador to Putin and his cronies for interrogation is bewildering. No president should have the power to gift-wrap American citizens, let alone former ambassadors, to our known adversaries. How can President Trump and his team spend even a moment considering Putin's request? How can they equate the democracy and rule of law and system of open and fair prosecution we have in this country with what Putin does? Just amazing. This president every day demeans the United States. So many Americans are saying they're ashamed to have him as their leader when he behaves like this. Certainly, if the president agreed to such a request, Congress must do everything in its power to block it. There can be no room for debate, no room for discussion. We must be clear and clear quickly. So this morning, Senator Menendez, Senator Schatz, and I plan to offer a simple resolution that states, quote, it is the sense of Congress that the United States should refuse to make available any current or former diplomat, civil servant, political appointee, law enforcement official, or member of the armed forces of the United States for questioning by the government of Vladimir Putin. This body must agree on the importance of protecting our ambassadors. We should pass it today.
7-29 all the way around.
Wait,
Clear Municipal Court.
not show any equivocation.
22, address 4509.
This incredible offer, as President Trump so casually and incorrectly called it, raises other serious questions. What else has President Trump agreed to behind closed doors? What else has he discussed with President Putin? President Trump and President Putin met for nearly 2 hours behind closed doors, no one else present but a translator, and hardly anyone knows what was said. Has Secretary Pompeo been briefed on that private behind closed doors meeting? He knows, he hasn't said so. Does our military know if President Trump made commitments about our nuclear arsenal? But he knows. And Secretary Mattis hasn't said whether he's been briefed.
10-4, trying to check your welfare.
Do we know if President Trump made commitments about the security of Israel or Syria or North Korea or any of the other issues the President said he discussed with Putin? It is utterly amazing that no one knows what was said. This is a democracy. If our president makes agreements with one of our leading, if not our leading adversary, his cabinet has to know about it, and so do the American people. These questions and more need a full and complete account before Congress in an open setting as soon as possible. That's why I've called on the Republican leadership to demand that Secretary of State Pompeo, Ambassador Huntsman, and crucially, the translator present at the closed-door session be made to testify before the Senate. They should come immediately.
2 Predator 5 pending, 133
Now.
and 132.
What
And
are our
Patrol 2
Republican
and
friends?
133 pending.
Because, Madam President,
16, Oscar.
the events of this week
26 going
raise serious questions about the President's ability to responsibly
Oscar,
and
when you get back to
safely
the yard, can you take your
conduct
unit
this
to the
nation's
shop for a
foreign
PM?
policy, about his ability and willingness to defend the United States and its citizens, about his very ability to govern in so many areas.
The next
Confronted with
driver
these
that
grave
does the
questions,
1044, can you
I
give us
believe
a
the
call and
Senate
let us
must
know
act
where you're at so I can
to
have
show
you
our
do a switch
country's
out? The next
resolve
driver to call at
to punish
1044. Do you
Putin for his
copy?
interference and never allow such a thing to happen again.
Zebra
To ensure the President is doing what's necessary to stand up for American interests.
Tom, Union, Paul,
I have
Adam,
proposed,
John.
many of my colleagues on this side of the aisle have proposed, a bunch of things we can do right now to take action in the wake of President Trump's indefensible summit with President
Show me right
Putin.
now on Glazebrook.
Democrats are not in the majority. We don't control the floor. We need our Republican colleagues who control the Senate floor to join us on these measures. The lack of action,
400 block of
not just words,
Charles Adam 9, 52.
the lack of action by our Republican colleagues is stunning and deeply disappointing. Not just to the Democrats, but to all
Expired on
Americans.
August 23rd, 2018. Shows unconfirmed.
Since Monday, sadly, we haven't seen movement from our colleagues in the majority. Just more slow walking. I understand my friends Senator Coons and Flake are working on introducing a resolution to support the consensus of our intelligence agencies and to request congressional oversight. We're all for it. I hope it passes with unanimous consent that it deserves. But my Republican friends can and must do more. Actions. Not just resolutions and statements of disapproval. We shouldn't need this resolution. The things asked for in this resolution should have been happening already. And the burden of patriotism and protecting America's security is on Leader McConnell's shoulders. I know he has a difficult situation. I know he has a president who can sometimes be vindictive. The bottom line is our country's security, our country's direction,
Tall, skinny male, Hispanic
country's
male
honor
with a beard and long hair and a red
demands
shirt, blue jeans.
we need to bring Secretary of State Pompeo, Ambassador Huntsman, and the rest of President Trump's national security team from Helsinki, including the translator who was present in the one-on-one meetings with Putin, right here before the Congress in open session, so we all know what happened. We need to pass legislation to protect Special Counsel Mueller. There's bipartisan legislation already, passed out of the Judiciary Committee under Senator Grassley's leadership and support. It's on the floor. What is our leader, our Republican leader, waiting for? We need to see the president's tax returns, the common practice of all presidents in recent memory, but needed far more now, because one of the most logical explanations of the president's obsequious and almost inexplicable actions towards President Putin is that Putin has something over him. Maybe it would be revealed in the tax returns, and if nothing's there, the president should have no problem releasing them. We need to implement sanctions against Russia, not weaken them. We need to demand that Putin hand over the 12 Russians indicted for election interference. And we need to harden our election infrastructure so that what happened in 2016 never happens again. These are all common sense measures. Most of them have bipartisan support already. And they will accomplish for America what the president has been unwilling or unable to do.
Is the warrant number that
My Republican colleagues refuse to pursue any, if not all, of these items. They are de facto consenting to the president's capitulation.
That completely the way it happened. Thank you.
We cannot stand by.
Waiting on the confirmation, but when they send it, it should have that 18-226 as the actual case number.
Finally, Madam President, on health care.
It's
Ever since Republicans were handed the keys to both houses of Congress and the White House after the 2016 election, they've engaged in a protracted campaign of sabotage against our health care system. Premiums are going up, coverage is going down, and it's all falling in the laps of our Republican colleagues in the House and Senate. President Trump and congressional Republicans proposed legislation that would have gutted Medicaid, allowed insurers to charge more, and deny coverage just because a person got sick, and excluding critical benefits, imposing lifetime or annual limits on care. Under the cover of night, Republicans dismantled the health care's coverage requirement without putting anything in its place. Trump administration canceled the federal program that helped low-income customers afford insurance and expanded the availability of junk insurance plans that sucker Americans in with low premiums but then hardly cover anything. And people are saying when they have these plans, why did I even buy insurance? Now, worse yet, the administration has directed the Justice Department to stop defending the constitutionality of protections for Americans with pre-existing medical conditions, turning its back on the most popular and humane advancement in our healthcare system over the decade. I'd say to my Republican friends here, go to your constituents, ask if someone has someone sick in their family. You'll get a lot of hands. And then ask them if they should be excluded from gaining insurance. Health insurance to help that sick member. See how many support these ideas. They try to do them in the dark of night. It's not going to work. In August, we Democrats are going to be talking about this over and over again. And believe me, it'll probably be the most important factor in the 2018 election as the American people will rebel from the taking away of health care. Imagine going back to the days when a mother with a child who has cancer can no longer find affordable health care for her daughter. When hard-working Americans who fall on hard times are made to suffer, denied health care coverage precisely because they need it. How wrong, how backward, how immoral. Well, that's where President Trump wants to take us, and that's where all of our Republican colleagues seem to be following. Later this morning, actually right now, a group of Democrats are announcing about how we plan to fight back against this lawsuit the Trump administration has put in place and preserve the protections for up to 130 million non-elderly Americans with pre-existing conditions. The elderly, fortunately, since we still have Medicare, despite efforts by some on the other side to cut it back, are protected. As millions of Americans watch their health care costs go up, as they read about the news about the Republican latest effort to undo health care protections, they fear for the future, and who in Washington will be fighting for them. In November, they'll have a chance to vote for a party who will check the president's dangerous health care sabotage, who will work to bring down costs, improve quality, who will never undermine the protections of Americans with pre-existing conditions. I look forward to the response to my colleague's announcement of our lawsuit. I yield the floor.
Medical, disregard your screens. Disregard your screens.
Morning business is closed. Under the previous order, the Senate will proceed to executive session to resume consideration of the following nominations for clerk Blue Report.
Nomination, the judiciary, Brian Wesley Bonds of Oregon, the United States Circuit Judge for the Ninth Circuit.
Here, Elizabeth.
That's 150 arriving. 50-10-4. 2805, show me clear, 58 within range. 6396, King Tom. 4926.
John Frank 4926, Castoris and Holly, 10-4.
I'm going to be on the west end of the building.
3275 in the area. Units in the area. T for location and assignment. 11 Medical 11. Chest pain, 4313. Soft staples at the Lithia Dodge at Staples. Cross street at Scholar Road. 26-year-old male. Pain in the left arm, in the chest, and in the neck. Information still updating. Work off of EMS 11639.
11, we're out.
C301B, Sheila.
Pick up at Staples and Castores for Delta 260.
That for us, somewhere out.
There's about 20 last four are 0599. Possible fight and no information on who fired off the shot. 270 after you, sir.
Charlie, keep point right. Yeah, with the subject near Leopard and Oak Park.
Leopard and Oak Park, 10-4.
Mary 5, David 830, and then Van's off to the shoulder. Be clear.
Be clear, and I'll be around to 375's location.
And 10-4. Holly. Can you show me an route to the 14,000 block of cruiser? On his neck. Alright, that's a follow-up call. That was entering a white Ford pickup, unknown if he was armed.
Holly at 1. Yeah, mobile.
Afternoon, Debbie, logged in 345, manifest number 87.
31098.
Mark to the K, 310 of 98. Charlie 340, I'll be in the area. Charlie 340 in the area. That's going to make 3 party subject with a black shirt wrapped around his neck. 2 party shirt that was entering a white Ford pickup, unknown if he was armed.
4, thank you. 355 Holly at 1.
Units copy for hazardous driver. Old Brownsville and Omaha. Old Brownsville and Omaha for a black Infiniti driving recklessly with the passenger door open. Last seen, Old Brownsville and Navigation, Patrol 1, 1545.
What is your name now? Yeah, go for fast. 4928, traffic.
28 location.
Lena, George. A medic over here.
We called 1118 Verbena, 1118 Verbena, cross street of Buford. 10 people are 68-year-old male, conscious, breathing. Sizing he fell earlier this morning. Also being updated.
320, go to mobile.
Dispatch at 214. I was checking to see what captain we had on duty.
Captain, I'm giving you a call. 5863 and Frank Williams, 3694.
Bruising and blood to the face. Charlie 4 copy. Correction, Charlie 3 copy. Medic 1. Big call. 1158 Verbena, cross street of Buford. 10 people are 68-year-old male.
Number for that subject and it's just going to voicemail.
Sizing he fell earlier this morning.
Copy, just going to voicemail.
Personnel fire dispatch at 214.
Copy, just goes to voicemail. I did a couple of callbacks and it's going to voicemail. What number was that?
It's going to be a set call, 1502 Airline Road, number 230 at CC Pizza, 1502 Airline Road, number 230 at the CC Pizza. PD is on scene requesting a medic for a subject with an infection in the leg. Work off of fire dispatch 1548.
Case number 1663, 1663.
Then by ID 1733.
4924 traffic.
924 location.
Castoris and Holly. 8484.
Charlie 340.
140.
Our urgent care unit.
Okay, I had called in, and I guess I talked to someone from MIS, and they said they were going to call me back. They ain't called me back yet, but where do I go meet MIS? Is that city services?
Pretty much all the 435 and then go to a separate call for 21. Same location.
2826, 37 northbound 2826. It's going to be for a patient bleeding from the foot after dropping the book on it. Marking off a 5 217.
95. So, 330, go take care of some stuff. So you guys take care of what reference is using.
10-4. I'll show you en route. Show Bravo 330's location, CCC 7 Airline.
No, you stay where you're at. Alright, Temple, let me know if you need.
2% of private.
No, 340.
We're good.
10-2, show me clear from here. Show me en route to the incomplete 911.
K92, 10-4. Be advised, someone cleared it off my screen, so I'm going to have to go find him. More.
Yes, check that 4.
Please.
4.
Starting minus 33558.
So are they still on down?
10-4. On your way to airline.
10-4. I'll meet them at the Stripes at Weber. 10-4, I don't know the now.
Just pointing adult female to CC. Sorry, Miles, 0.0.
Here, before I proceed, could you move down to drop for me?
310 clear.
Bravo 440, I'm clear.
No, 440 clear, 581 arrest.
Yeah.
Clear.
Business. For transport.
Come at this time.
Drop off today. I just dropped off on Sandpipe.
051.
Bishop on a signal 4.
621 South Highway 77 in Bishop, 10-4. 410 clear. That's what she's advising if the unit can take the 12 to a transport location. I actually have a Charlie unit en route now to Weber and SA.
Okay, so where do you want him to go in?
We'll pick up there for settlement.
340 there with
340's with them.
340.
Transporting an adult male, beginning mile 0.1 to site 2.
Signal 4 at Cool Park.
Negative 29, I'm not getting a 27 return.
What's a different, we can go a different direction. We just need the mail.
10-4. Well, they can go to Gulf Way. I'm sure transport can go to Gulf. It's right across the street. Across the street to Gulf Way.
Patient.
Charles D. Paul 1093.
Holly, Charles A. Paul 1093, 10-4.
20's gonna have that adult male in 93.
Holly, King Victor Tom 3193. Adult male custody. En route for a property assist, been pending an hour and a half at 602 South Padre Island at the Whataburger. 602 SPD at the Whataburger.
Cool. What's the location? 320 route. City Hall parking lot.
Pick up her daughter's clothing. I'm going to 4210 Archdale. It's going to be, is being followed by
on wheels.
420 will have a
Suspect has short, spiky hairs, Hispanic female wearing a black shirt and black pants.
He's going to be in a gray Jeep Cherokee.
Hey, Jack, now she's throwing it all at the Urbana place is what she's doing. What's the location?
Yeah, let me get turned around then, because we passed
faster. Yeah, it's gonna be the same call.
4930, last 4 are 0641, 0641. Gangman for Tango Blast.
With ID and CNF, for the
Cherokee. They're still waiting on direction of travel for the suspect.
I'm about to clear up here. I was just wondering what time I could give the owner here.
Adam 330, 10-4.
I mean, zone 2. Just so you know, can you document that vehicle 1102 has a small hole on the back of the driver's seat? Just for documentation purposes.
Adam 350, we clear false alarm.
Adam 350, 10-4.
Come there and take it from No, down Chaparral, because we were there when that call went in. It's late.
It's just a trash can on wheels, right? That's what she took?
Now, one of those cleaning buckets that they use out here. Sorry about that.
340, 10-4. 17, nothing came through. It was all static and choppy. Really for 20 adult male on destroying the medical place.
Doctor's Regional.
417, I copied Doctor's Regional. All choppy. For burglary not in progress, it's been pending for an hour and a half at 1825 Airline, 22 Allen Road. 141 at Autumn Sunrise. Contact Alexandria. 410, 10-4. 0310, O'Reilly. 420, don't mail out to CDC. 1104, are you available to speak with 20 adult male uninsured gentleman at 4825 Jean? 4825 Jean.
Let me check. That might be 362.
03, excuse me, for the second fire.
3, look out. 3 AM clear.
Stables in Texas.
80 clear. Young John, 4037, 10-4. 55, 10-4.
That's 3 Bravo hospitals. That's not our precinct.
No, for 10-4.
Thank you. Medic 6. 1 south, can you bother?
Move 1 to south of 0.1.
Took radio location.
130 in the area. Being advised, there's an engine en route. Bravo 3.
Bravo 350, I'm clear. 58, I can go with 360.
80 clear.
10-4, Bravo 380, you're clear.
On custody at 225, case number 15, 001.
Tank top.
Where was that tank top?
Medic 3.
The RP is supposed to be in the parking lot in a gray Jeep Cherokee. I'm Sergeant Shelley. I'll be working zone 1. Can you put some notes on my detail? Thank you, ma'am. And I'll be clear from transportation. 225, case number 15, 0015.
We don't know. We don't know where we're involved.
Exit at the plus, and we're separated going off there.
Esplanade, suite number 304 B-Boy, cross street is Staples. 5826 Esplanade, suite number 304 B-Boy, cross street is Staples. for injury 14 and medic 14. Injury 14, medic 14 for chest pain, J66, female patient. Also having difficulty breathing. She's going to be at Dr. Chakilam's office. Both units work on EMS 1 at 1611.
Requesting you on Patrol 1. Charlie, 310-4. It looks like she's calling in now. It looks like she was still driving. 220-4. The adult female custody at 226. Your case number 17. 330-4.
EPK number 0.
10-4.
Last name is Charles Ocean Robert. R8, John 424.
8 John 424 at the Padre, Valley Park 10-4. Both have just exited the bus and went their separate ways. I don't know if you still want to make it the units
at the Emerald Beach Hotel back parking lot down by the water.
Just go on to that call, man.
Check for Beach Hotel, that's 468 Street right there.
No buses out there 10-4.
Charlie 250, Charlie 2.
230 in the area.
94.
1794. From, out of our... Yeah, Charlie 120, 2 rush sheet.
Staples on the part 10-4.
From about 3 minutes ago. The staff in your... Yes, sir, thank you.
And they'll call for updating. All the glasses, blue polo, blue jean shorts, and white shoes.
From Galahar to...
Over here at 37 in water. Delta 4.
All the way around, Hispanic male, last name is spelled Charles Ocean Robert, David Edward Robert Ocean, first name is Jeremiah, John Edward Robert, Edward Mary, Ida Adam Henry,
Bravo
1 of 84.
What night traffic? 44, Kenwood 61, John Tom Zebra 6629. Tom Zebra 6629.
John Tom 06629, Highway 44 and Kenny Road 6110-4.
Units copy for clear, stolen vehicle information, license plate John William George 5602, John William George 5602, recovered today's day at 23rd and Morris, authority Delta 240, Patrol 2 at 1618.
Copy.
Just wanted to see the status of your camera system.
Careful.
Well, it seems to be working right.
180-801-0645.
Delta 220, 9031.
707.
216 Stewart.
16 Stewart 10-4. Charlie 430, left of CDC adult female 0 at 230. Any unit clear for disturbance of progress, 47.6. Start investigating at Everhart.
2.6 somewhere.
450.
11's out. Not working till 9. I got a 1445 body camera. Body. Is there anything underneath that tab or no? I'm just curious to see.
Charlie 430, left of CDC.
You wouldn't be able to come by here real quick so I'd take a look at it because I can't remote in. Or are you on a call? 10-4. That'd be awesome. Thanks.
Nothing nowhere.
230, 10-4.
I saw that written up a long time ago, but nothing written up on it. There's nothing yet.
What's his name's house on date? You saw it over there, Kevin.
And Charlie 14 negative, repeat. North at the res, contact Julian. Meeting a lot of static, that was the King
Lydia.
Norris 3481.
And advise that there's no bus at the location.
Yes, sir. For this pleasures, there's no answer on that young lady's phone.
Bravo 350, Bravo 360. I'll go ahead and show you play.
Charlie 120, Charlie 2.
K930, both units clear.
10-4.
706 McCarroll Road.
I saw two of them. They're doing those, right? I already sent them up.
They're advising that
Okay,
there's going to be
I'll see if I
several
can
subjects out there.
scratch it off
They
over
didn't
there.
advise specifically how many.
What are you, a diabetic patient?
He's drunk and he's in custody.
Drunken in custody.
Repeat copy. Congress pending at the Stripes at SP80 westbound at Everhart.
Center. Cross Street is stable. Call for Medicaid truck 4. Medicaid truck 4 for unconscious. A 62-year-old female patient.
Would you want to go ahead and search your route that way until they
Not
advise
coherent.
that
Or even worse.
there's
Could be outside the location in a white Ford Flex. Both units work on EMS 1. EMS 1 is 1624.
Engine 4, we got that.
Just be advised, you have a disturbance of Congress pending at the Stripes at SP80 westbound at Everhart.
I'll give you the warrant numbers, would that help? Okay, stand by.
Well, 460, go ahead with your plate.
Truck 1070 and YMCA.
And we have one in Lincoln Henry 3269 10. Case number 180018.
P3. Possible structure fire. So the third-party caller, she was on the phone with her son at the location. Your son was screaming and the RP could hear a fire alarm in the background. Still trying to get more information. All units can work on Group 8. Group 8 at 1625.
015, we're with 330. Take 14.
Father lunch. Progress. Could be at Arbor's apartment. 6225 Saratoga, 6225 Saratoga, apartment 1202. Contact information is still updating.
Show me out of service.
Frank, Boy Henry, 14.
It's going to be a disturbance with the male subject. It wasn't trying to hurt the RP. Correction, trying to take the RP's daughter. It's going to be the name Jonathan Miles. He's currently in the apartment with the RP.
Correction.
Number for him.
14.
Number show your location.
Engine 18's in service.
Medicaid.
703 call, you out of service. Vehicle.
No, 3 Charlie, out of service.
Boy Henry, 1476.
Senator from Arkansas.
Drop off on Abbey and then go to Westchester.
I'd like to take this opportunity to express my support for the 20,000 men and women of Immigration and Customs Enforcement. They work hard every day to keep drugs off our streets, to stop human trafficking, to protect our communities from gang violence, and yes, to enforce our immigration laws. Theirs can be a thankless job, but they do it with courage, dedication, and professionalism. So I, for one, want to say thank you. And I'd like to point out the overwhelming support that House Republicans showed for ICE yesterday. Which stands in stark contrast to the contemptible display put on by House Democrats. On a simple resolution, merely expressing support for the men and women of ICE, only 18 Democrats voted yes. 8 skipped the vote, 34 voted no, and 133 Democrats voted present. Which is the same thing, isn't it? That's a pretty sad state of affairs. 34 Democrats condemn the men and women of ICE, and 141 Democrats don't even have the courage of their conviction. They don't even have the guts to vote.
I'm going to show you out for that call at Customers in McCardle. It's in the soul.
Because we all know Democrats, in their heart of hearts, want to abolish ICE.
Medic 1.
The way they tell it, ICE is a rogue agency driven by hatred and spite to tear apart communities. Congressman Pocan of Wisconsin says ICE is ripping at the moral fabric of our nation. Congresswoman Hayapal of Washington says ICE is out of control. Congressman Blumenauer of Oregon calls ICE toxic. And the senior senator from Massachusetts says we should replace ICE with something that reflects our values, which I suppose means that the 20,000 men and women of ICE don't measure up to the professor's definition of our values. But I have to ask, isn't the rule of law one of those values? Because ICE's job is simply to enforce the law and to protect our citizens from crime. In the last year alone, ICE arrested more than 125,000 illegal aliens with criminal records. Those illegal aliens were responsible for more than 80,000 DUIs, 76,000 dangerous drug offenses, 48,000 assaults, 11,000 weapon offenses, 5,000 sexual assaults, 2,000 kidnappings, and 1,800 homicides. Yes, that's right, almost 2,000 souls would still be on this earth, but for those illegal alien criminals. ICE's investigative arm also seized more than 980,000 pounds of narcotics last year. These men and women are on the front lines of the war on drugs and the opioid crisis in particular. Do the Democrats really believe we should put all these efforts on hold? This call to abolish ICE is so irresponsible that even some Democrats, those not running for president or beholden to the radical left, are speaking out against it. Jay Johnson, President Obama's former Secretary of Homeland Security, has said it's not a serious policy proposal and will compromise public safety. He's pointed out that even those who oppose the Vietnam War wouldn't have demanded that we abolish the Department of Defense. Eric Holder, President Obama's former Attorney General, has said, I don't think that substantively or politically that makes a great deal of sense, calling it a gift to Republicans. And Sarah Saldana, who ran ICE under President Obama, has called it nonsensical. But perhaps the most insightful comment came from former Senator Joe Lieberman. He said, this makes no sense unless you no longer want any rules on immigration or customs to be enforced. And that, I would contend, is the whole point. Those who want to abolish ICE really just want open borders. The very bill House Democrats have introduced to abolish ICE doesn't even say which federal agency should assume its critical law enforcement duties. They just leave it up to a commission. And the reason I would submit is that they don't really care. Their obsession with open borders is so great that they are willing to risk public safety to achieve it. These irresponsible politicians should know better. They aren't worthy to lead the brave, hardworking men and women of ICE. These officers are just trying to do their job and to keep us safe. So on behalf of the grateful nation, I conclude by again extending my deepest thanks.
Cross Street is Everhard, 4750 SKID.
Minority Whip.
Mr. President, I joined the Senate of Arkansas in commending those who are involved in law enforcement, risking their lives for the safety of this nation at all levels, federal, state, and local. They put the badges on every single day and risk their lives. And that's fair. And within the Department of Homeland Security, there are men and women who are conscientiously trying to keep America safe. I commend them as well. I believe that they are doing their job as they understand it, and they're risking their lives many times to achieve it, to not only stop the illegal flow of drugs into our country, but to deter crime, to ferret out criminals where possible, and they risk their lives to achieve that goal. I have not joined in a call for the abolition of ICE, but I will not join in a call for the adoration of ICE because of one specific issue. The zero-tolerance policy of the Trump administration resulted in our agents, the Department of Homeland Security, forcibly separating children from their parents. Forcibly separating up to 3,000 children from their parents. I saw some of those kids separated by that agency. There were toddlers and infants. Some were being held by the care workers that happened to visit up in Chicago. Little babies, taken from their mothers. Toddlers, children 5 and 6 years old, separated by this agency under the President's zero tolerance policy, up to 3,000 according to the administration's own estimates. Had that happened before? Only rarely. But it became the policy of this administration until there was such an uproar in the United States and around the world that President Trump reversed his position on zero tolerance. But reversing the position did not return the children to their parents. It took federal courts to do that, and one in particular in San Diego, where the judge called the representatives of ICE, Health and Human Services, all the other agencies involved in these children being removed forcibly from their parents, and gave them deadlines to return the children to their parents. And it was then that we discovered something about this agency. It was then that we discovered that they didn't keep a record of the parents and kids. If you place an order online at Amazon or some other source, and the next day want to check on the status of your order, you use your tracking number and we'll tell you where your package is. There's no tracking number when it came to these kids. If you decide that you're going to order a pizza, and it seems to take a little too long, and you call the pizza parlor, they can generally tell you when the messenger is, or the delivery is. And the same thing's true in so many other areas. So why then would this agency, which my colleagues are now coming to the floor claiming such great praise for, ignore the obvious? This agency, the Department of okay, let's get down to basics. How many kids are we talking about? They wouldn't give us a number. Or how many kids identified? 2 weeks passed and we had a new briefing this week. The numbers are now more complete. 2,500 kids separated from their parents, spread around the United States, and some 1,800 parents. What about the difference? What happened to 700 parents who lost their children? Well, the explanation from ICE was they abandoned those kids and left. Does that sound reasonable? Does that sound honest? You take the child away from the arms of a parent, and then the parent says, I'm leaving the country. It might have happened in some cases for reasons I don't know, but it's an outrageous suggestion. And what it reflects on is incompetency. How in the world can you take a child away from a parent, forcibly take them away, and not keep an adequate record for their reunification? How can you do that? Common sense, common decency suggests that you would do it. So I'm not going to join in any resolution here applauding that action by any federal agency, Department of Homeland Security, ICE, or other agencies. To me, it is a stain on the reputation of this nation, one that we need to quickly resolve by reuniting these children with their families as quickly as possible. Because you see, it isn't just a question of a holiday for these kids. Pediatricians have come forward, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and said what we have done is institutional abuse of children. This separation is not just another day in the life of this 2-year-old, 5-year-old, 8-year-old. This separation is something that is causing trauma within their own minds. Have you read the stories about the reunification? When some of the parents come back, finally get the children, and the children won't even come to the parents? They don't quite understand what just happened to them. They think the parent might have just decided to give them up. And there they were alone and by themselves at that tender age. Can you imagine that for your children or your grandchildren? I can't. We did it as part of official government policy of the Trump administration under zero tolerance. So when some of us come to the floor to question the actions, the conduct, the management of ICE, we have good reason to do it. And I hope that for the people within that agency who are doing their jobs conscientiously, that we can at least be honest in saying that this policy is one which doesn't deserve praise and doesn't deserve our adoration on the floor of the United States Senate or the U.S. House.
What's the medic
President, I yield the floor.
Medic 749 Villarreal. 749 Villarreal. 450 clear. 348.
Full thickness burn to both hands. Patient said he had a fire in his bedroom and attempted to put it out with his hands, and he got burned. We do have an IV established. Current vital signs are BP 164 and 103 with a heart rate of 98, setting at 97% of room air.
President,
We have given 2 milligrams of morphine.
speaking about a
We
matter
have a saving bag
of
and
extraordinary importance for the future of American democracy and, in fact, democracies all over the world.
To go to the nearest
At
adult
the
facility.
Helsinki summit on Monday,
The mother stated that
President
she wants
Trump
her child to go to
embarrassed our country, undermined American values, and openly sided with Russia's authoritarian leader, Vladimir Putin, against the U.S. intelligence community's unanimous assessment that Russia interfered in the 2016 presidential election. Senator John McCain is right when he said it was, and I quote, one of the most disgraceful performances by an American president in memory. The damage inflicted by President Trump's naivete, egotism, false equivalence, and sympathy for autocrats is difficult to calculate. But it is clear that the summit in Helsinki was a tragic mistake, end quote. That's not Bernie Sanders talking. That is former Republican presidential candidate, Senator John McCain. On Tuesday, after a strong international backlash, Trump, in a bizarre statement, claimed that he misspoke, and of course blamed the media for reporting what he said. Even then, he could not help but suggest that the electoral interference, quote, could be other people also, end quote, and not just Russia. And then in an interview last night, Trump changed his answer yet again and acknowledged in the meekest way possible that yes, Russia meddled in our election, and as the leader of Russia, Vladimir Putin is responsible. Well, this is a step forward, but it is not remotely sufficient. And who knows what tweet the president will release tomorrow. He seems to come up with a new response every few hours. Mr. President, today we face an unprecedented situation of a president who, for whatever reason, refuses to acknowledge the full scope of the threat to American democracy. Either he really doesn't understand what is happening, and that's possible, or he is under Russian influence because of compromising information they may have on him, or because he is ultimately more sympathetic to Russia's authoritarian oligarchic form of government than he is to American democracy. Whatever the reason, Congress must act now. Democrats must act. Republicans must act if we are serious about preserving American democracy. We must demand, and I know this is a radical idea, but demand that the President of the United States represent the interests of the American people and not Russia. Now let us be as clear as we can be. Russia has been interfering not only in U.S. elections, but in the elections of other democracies, United Kingdom, France, Germany. I would yield to the Democratic leader.
Thank you, and I want to thank my friend, the senator from Vermont, for this outstanding resolution. It is a resolution I don't see who can object. Who can object? We ask for 5 things in this resolution. That our government accept the assessment of our own intelligence committees about Russia's interference, that we move aggressively to protect our election systems, that the sanctions that this body passed, 98-2, finally be implemented by the Trump administration, that there be no interference in Mr. Mueller's investigation, and that there must be cooperation. Who in America would object to that? Maybe a small group of hard-right ideologues, but no one else. Who in this body will object to it? This is an outstanding resolution. Now, I know my friend from Vermont would agree with me. We need action in addition to resolutions, but this is an excellent start. And I would urge all of my colleagues to support this full-heartedly. Our country is at risk. The senator from Vermont is sounding a clarion call and saying in a bipartisan way, we should strengthen our country, not weaken it as the president has done over the last week. And I hope that this will get unanimous support from every member of this body, whether they be Democrat, Independent, Republican, whether they be liberal, moderate, or conservative. If you love America and care about our security, support this resolution. I thank my colleague for yielding.
Democratic leader for his strong efforts on this enormously important issue. And I just want to reiterate, this